The countries of the world are facing difficult negotiations, says the host of the climate conference in Scotland. At the previous conference in Paris, many questions remained unanswered. So, the British host of the World Climate Conference COP26 considers the struggle in Glasgow in Scotland for tougher climate measures to be more difficult than the agreement on the Paris Climate Agreement. What we want to do in Glasgow is really difficult, said COP President-elect Alok Sharma to The Guardian on Saturday. And he said, "It's brilliant what was done in Paris. It was a framework agreement, but many of the details were left open." In Paris in 2015, more than 190 countries agreed on the goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees, if possible to 1.5 degrees compared to the pre-industrial era. To this end, all countries should draw up action plans. In Glasgow, around 200 states want to consult for 2 weeks from Sunday. It's definitely more difficult than Paris on many levels, said Sharma. And he said, "It's like having come to the most difficult questions in an exam, and at the same time you hardly have any time." The plans will be measured against the 1.5 degree target. According to a UN report, the world is heading for 2.7 degrees global warming with the current plans. Before the climate conference, climate protection activists from poorer regions of the world demanded that rich countries like, for example, Germany, take a more resolute stance against the climate crisis. They would have to drastically reduce their CO2 emissions and provide more money to combat the consequences of climate change in poorer countries, said activists from Fridays for Future from Kenya, Mexico and the Philippines to the German press agency, but they should not forget China and the US, the biggest emissaries, I almost said. The promised $100 billion for climate protection and adaptation to climate change in poorer countries were not enough and would not even be made available, complained Mitzi Jonel Tan from the Philippines. Change comes when people demand change, said the most prominent Fridays for Future representative Greta Thunberg in an interview with the BBC over the weekend. So we can't expect everything to happen at these conferences. The 18-year-old Swede will travel to Glasgow with other activists. It would be a success if people finally begin to understand the urgency of the situation and really realize that we are facing an existential crisis, said Thunberg, but she never has to worry about how to do things. She only can demand. The head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, called on Germany to take a more active role in climate protection in Asia, Africa and Latin America. It's not just about financial aid, but also about diplomacy, said Birol to the German Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung. In addition, the coming federal government must expand renewable energies more quickly and shut down coal-fired power plants more quickly. If you appeal to emerging countries to stop using coal-based electricity, then Germany should also officially confirm that it will phase out before 2038. The world's leading oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, promised to become climate neutral by 2060. The CO2 emissions should be reduced by 278 million tons annually by 2030, said Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Riyadh on Saturday. For investments around the climate, the equivalent of 160 billion euros are planned. The desert state wants to plant 10 billion trees in the next 20 years. As a first step, 450 million trees would be planted in the kingdom as part of the Saudi Green Initiative, said Crown Prince Mohammed. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.